Rifts, they're back with our patch 2.2c review. So, as promised, it's going to be within the first 24 hours of the patch releasing, because after that, it's not too much of a point to do a patch notes review anymore. So, but similar to last time, we had a lot of construction in the area, so I can only do it now. I want to do it like 6 hours plus ago, but I could not. So here we are with the patch notes review. So first up, it's the last balance patch of the 2.2 cycle. So now, Riot did actually release their patch notes schedule for major patches over here. So this is the patch release schedule. So as you guys can see, we got 2.2 on March 30th. Actually, I believe we got it like 2 days before. I think we got it on March 28th. But the next patch 2.3, next major patch, I should say, is on June 1st. So what they're saying is that from now until June 1st, we won't be having any more patches. So this the next patch will be on June 1st. So this patch is not actually a very major patch. There's a lot of minor changes, but let's just quickly jump into it. Let's not waste time. So first up, Renekton release. As of now, Renekton is not yet released into the game, but I do believe that he should be. It's either a bug that he's not released yet, or he should release tomorrow, because they didn't even put when he's going to be released. In previous patch notes, they'll always put when the champion is going to be released, and Renekton is actually expected to release on May 12th, so it's either like today or tomorrow. But I expect that he's going to be a meta top laner. Renekton in League PC is pretty much a meta top laner, especially in pro play. So we're probably gonna be seeing a lot of Renekton in the top lane. Here we have the Blood Moon skins all releasing: Diana, Jhin, Kennen, Twisted Fate, and Yasuo, as well as Nasus Malphite skin releasing, as well as release skin with Renekton. So maybe there might be a Blood Moon event, not sure about that. But here we have another event. Can see all the different icons. Here we have the Blood Moon Bauble, as well as the Blood Moon Recall effect. So here we have the Home Guard Trail. So if you guys know what that is, it's like these rainbow trails over here that follow you when you spawn, all the way up to when you walk to lane, just at the start of the game. So here we have new events. So we have the Pride event, which will begin at the end of May and on May 24th. They will release info in the future, but it's for all these. Similar event has happened in League of Legends PC, so that's where I'm taking reference from. So we are having another Nemesis Duel for Renekton and Nasus, and same trigger as the Kha'Zix Rengar one. So as of now, playing ever since Kha'Zix and Rengar have been released, I've yet to actually encounter a Nemesis Duel. Of course, I don't play Kha'Zix and Rengar, but there have been a lot of Kha'Zix and Rengar on opposing teams, but I've never seen the Nemesis Duel trigger because the conditions are all not met. So I have not actually seen a Nemesis Duel yet. So yeah, just throwing that out there. But the effect of the Nemesis Duel for Renekton and Nasus, if Nasus wins, his Q will strike all enemies in an area, and this is huge. So especially late game when you have stacks, if you have AoE on your Q, that's huge. And for Renekton, if he ults, he will have maximum Fury. So now what happens when he has Fury is that his skills will be empowered. So you will have permanently empowered skills in your ultimate, which is insane as well. So now the thing about this Nemesis Duel is that Renekton is a top laner and Nasus is also a top laner. Now both of them can be played in the jungle, but that's not their meta role. That's a really off-meta position for them, so they'll both be in the top lane. So now the thing about this is that they'll be laning on each other one-on-one, unlike Kha'Zix and Rengar, where junglers technically, the jungle matchup is not exactly one-on-one, unless you're like contesting Scuttle, where that might be important, but you are mainly ganking lanes. But in this scenario, Nasus and Renekton will be going one-on-one, and the thing about it is that Renekton will probably crush Nasus in lane, so it's really hard for Nasus to stack when Renekton is there putting on pressure, and also Renekton probably wins this duel if it triggers, if the Renekton player knows what he's doing, because he would have crushed Nasus in the early game. That's just something that I'm just throwing out there. So we're going to move on to the champion changes. So obviously I've taken a glance at this. So Braum has gotten a 0.25 nerf to his passive concussive blows. That is the one where you have to basic attack the enemy. You or allies have to basically attack the enemy 4 times with a stun. Now, as I mentioned, when Xayah's root duration got increased by 0.25 seconds, 0.25 seconds is considered pretty long when you're talking about CC. So this is I would say it's a significant hit to Braum. It makes him slightly weaker, but we'll have to see the effects on how it affects Braum, because Braum is a pretty top tier support at the moment. So now for Diana, she has a nerf on her attack speed on her passive. So now it's still 30 at level 1, but it only scales up to 100% instead of 120%. Personally, it's a very minor nerf. I don't think it'll affect Diana too much because her basic attack speed is not exactly the most important. Generally, when you combo people, you only weave in your basic attacks in between here and there, and her main damage is from her skills and especially her ultimate, so I don't think this will affect her too much. Of course, it is still a nerf, but probably not too bad. Evelynn also got another nerf, as I said in the previous patch. Riot likes nerfing champions progressively, so Evelynn has caught a nerf on her Q. It has a damage reduction of 5 at every level, but take note that since your Q actually launches twice, it's technically like a 10 damage nerf. And personally, I don't think that 10 damage nerf is too big of a deal, honestly. But one thing it might affect is her early game jungle clear. So she might farm slower, might hit level 5 slower, and yet again impact her snowball potential, similar to her ultimate cooldown nerf in the previous patch. So Evelynn is slowly getting hit bit by bit, but I think these two nerfs will not take her out of the meta. She is probably still going to be a top tier jungler. Fizz has gotten a base mana regen buff. Now I never play Fizz, and I don't really see people playing Fizz, so I'm not really sure how this helps him. If he even has mana issues, I'm not really even sure of that, but it's good for Fizz to get a buff, I guess. So here Jax has gotten a mana buff, because apparently he has mana problems at the late game. Jax, again, not a very popular pick. A little bit more popular now that he has his skin released with the Wild Pass, the Explorer Jax, but still not very popular overall. But the mana nerf, of course, will help him. I did play Jax like a little bit here and there, so I do realize that his mana does run up pretty fast. So I do believe this should help him. So his max mana is going up by about 300, which is pretty good. Now Kaisa has finally gotten a change. The only change that she got previously was the bug fix on her W, I believe. Actually, she might have gotten another change with the bug fix on the W, but it's a very minor change that doesn't really affect her. Now here we have another very minor change. So Kaisa is obviously a top tier AD carry, one of the best in the top 3 for sure, and she got a nerf on her Q, where bonus damage to minions below 35% health is down from 200 to 150%. Honestly, Kaisa is my most played AD carry, and I can say pretty confidently that this really doesn't matter. It only really matters at the early parts of the game, where personally I don't use my Q to wave clear on early levels. I use it more to attack the enemy, so it doesn't really matter at early levels for me personally, the way I play Kaisa. And by the time you get your evolved Q, you won't even rely on the minion damage below 35% health, because you can simply just walk up to any non-cannon wave, press Q, and basically the whole wave is gone, with the exception of one long-range minion. You basically attack it one time, it's gone, and basically you won't even need this so-called execute damage on the minions anymore. So this really doesn't matter at all, in my opinion. What does sort of matter is her ult cooldown increase, basically getting the Evelynn treatment from it's a 20-second increase at the first rank, 10-second increase at the second rank, and at max rank it remains the same. So they're trying to hit her early game, because Kaisa is supposed to be a late game hyper carry, so they don't really want her to be too strong in the early game. But honestly, I like the Evelynn one. I think that nerfing the cooldown on her ultimate is not too big a deal. Like unless you're fighting really often, but majority of the time when I play Kaisa, the fights don't happen that often, and I don't think the 20-second is gonna affect it too badly. Of course it will, but not too badly. So I think both of these are minor changes, and Kaisa is probably still gonna be a top tier AD carry. Now we have another nerf to Lee Sin. So finally, Riot is realizing that the nerfs to Lee Sin previously were not enough, so they're nerfing Lee Sin again. This time hitting his passive, where his attack speed is gonna go down from 50 to 40%. Again, a very minor nerf, probably won't affect him too much. Lulu getting a buff to her mana and movement speed of another very, very minor change. So far, all these changes are honestly really very minor. There's nothing here so far that we see that is really going to hit anybody really hard, possibly with the exception of Braum. Braum probably is the biggest change so far. So this is a very minor change. Going to help Lulu a little bit, but not too much. Here we probably have our second biggest change. We have Lux W nerf. So basically, I've been saying this a lot in my tier list that Lux is very underrated, and maxing your W playing Lux support is like getting a free locket every time you cast your W. So they are nerfing your shield on return. So take note, when you launch it out, it's still the same, but when it returns, it's a pretty hefty nerf. It's like 100 to 75. That's like 25% of your shield gone. At max rank, it's 220 down to 165. It's a pretty major nerf. So I think Lux support will still be viable, but just that her W is not just going to be giving a free locket every time. I believe that this nerf is good. This is working as intended, I believe. I don't believe Lux Shield was ever meant to be as much as a locket, so I think that this is what was intended, so I do like this nerf. Shield AP ratio on return also decreased, basically just hitting the return of the W. So I like this change. I think it's gonna balance her a little bit more at the support role. So Pantheon is struggling to make an impact despite the recent buffs, and I do agree with that. He has been getting buffs consistently, but yet he is not really getting picked a lot, and I don't really see him all that much to really even judge how good his buffs were. So instead of buffing his Q damage again or his base damage, they buffed his base armor, and which basically affects his level 15 armor by 5. Honestly, very minor change. It's just a 5 armor increase, barely any change here, but of course a little bit of a buff is good. What is a pretty major buff is his W damage. So he did get like a 5 damage increase at first rank, but at max rank it's a 140 to 220. That's a massive increase. So you obviously want to max Q. Then it's always a question of whether you want to max W or max E. So now we might be leaning towards a W max with how much damage it gives, and W is normally the one that you use Empowered. So normally you use Empowered W to engage. That gives you 3 stacks on your passive. You auto attack, and then you Q, which allows you to proc your passive again. So that's what you normally do. So this is definitely helpful for a Pantheon in general. So now Twisted Fate has a red card buff where its AoE increased from 2 to 2.75, and the slow is also increasing by 5% at each level. Now, honestly, this really doesn't matter because you would almost never use red card. This is trying to get people to use red card more, but there's so little situations when you want to use red card. You always want to use gold card in lane for the stun, or the blue card for the mana regen, because you are very mana hungry in lane. And the only time you really use red card is if there's like a team fight and a lot of people are grouped. But even then, normally you will still pick gold card so you can stun either the tank who's trying to engage on you, or stun any carry that oversteps, or stun somebody basically. So you normally wouldn't take red card under almost any circumstances. Like maybe you take it 1 in every 20 or 30 times, but or when you misclick, but you almost never really want to willingly take a red card. So I don't really think this change matters. So here we have ARAM changes, and I'm just gonna cover this really quickly. Basically, melee champions like Camille, Fiora, and Jax are getting damage increases. Seraphine and Sona are getting huge nerfs because they're way too overpowered in ARAM. So you can take a look at the changes yourself. But honestly, ARAM, I'm not going to spend too much time covering it. So game changes, passive gold. So basically, passively, you gain 4 gold per second throughout the game. But now they're changing that to after 8 minutes, you only gain 3 gold per second instead of 4 gold. Personally, my prediction is that this change will not matter too much because it's going to affect literally everybody on the map. So it's a fair change to everybody. It doesn't affect anyone in particular. And 3 to 4 gold, it's 1 gold per second. So that's like 60 gold per minute. So it's like 60 gold per minute is still something. It's still gold, but as I said, it affects everybody. So probably it won't matter too much just because it affects everybody. So that is pretty much it. It honestly is a very minor change. This would be considered a major change, the passive gold change. We have a pretty major change to Lux as well as Braum. And other than that, honestly, the changes are very minor. So we're gonna await the patch 2.3, which is good, which is probably gonna bring very major changes, hopefully a new game mode or something. So with that, thanks for watching the video, guys, and